Yeah, truly, it really is a lot. Fencing is really overwhelming on the senses. Um, I see this a lot, especially with newer students, and it takes a while to break it out. And not really to break it out, but to get your nervous system accustomed to what's going on, to all of the stimulus and how to process all that. And one of the things that I think is kind of like the ultimate fix all for that is it does rely on the breathing, and it does rely on not thinking and automating your body. And I know that I don't know really what that sounds like to you, but keeping track of your breathing for one. So during the exchange, of course, with your opponents and things like that, is definitely not the time to try to implement something new. But with diligent practice and breath work, especially on the PEL, and synchronizing your inhales and exhales with your movements and things like that, and making your training at the PEL and with the sword work more about the breathing exercise than the cutting itself, you will find that your body likes it and that your body wants to do it. And whenever that light bulb clicks after a certain amount of practice, and I promise you it will click, you will know no other way. You will feel like you're suffocating if something interrupts your breathing. And one of the ways that I trained that in myself was, there's several different ways. I think running or jogging or anything where you can do a rhythmic pattern. And in this case, that rhythmic pattern would be the steps with a 1, 2, 3, 4, and counting those steps as you go. And I tell my students when we're doing these breathing exercises to breathe in for 3 steps, breathe out for 3 steps with the full abdominal inflation and all that stuff. And that kind of helps tune your body into breath work. And of course, then we start to mess with the rhythm, where we're doing a 3-1 ratio, breathe in for 3 steps, out for 1, breathe in, or, in under high demand or oxygen debt and things like that. One of the better breathing patterns is a half and half, where you're on each step, you're getting inhale, exhale with 1 step. And I feel weird breathing into the phone. But that's how like racehorses and stuff, that's how they breathe. They breathe on the step, just boom, 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 boom. And the action of their body moves the air for them. And similarly with fencing and boxing and stuff like that, like your body will say, your nervous system's like, yes, we want to breathe this way. So that's what we're going to do. And it just takes practice. Build that practice in sets. Like start off just sitting down and breathing and making sure that the muscles themselves can handle the workload, and then start to apply exertion with running or fencing and all that stuff. So tying that into your sword work, very simply, I always exhale in my cuts. I inhale on the recycle. So when I recycle that movement, I throw out an overhow or something like that. It's like a burst on the exhale, and everything else is an inhale, and then pull the sword back on an inhale, and there's never a moment where the breathing stops. And you just do it nice and slow. Don't force anything. As far as moving into keeping track of your feet and your opponent and stuff like that. If we're new at this, I highly advise everybody to practice their, gathering steps and things like that, but focus more on going backwards than going forward, because, 9 times out of 10, your opponent is still going to come into you. And if like you're moving towards them and they're moving towards you, then boom, you'll hit each other. But there has to be some sort of like distance management in fencing. And the distance management looks a little bit like this. So this is me, this is my opponent right here. What I don't want to have happen is my opponent go in here and then me back up. Or I move forward for an attack and the opponent does this too. What we need to really do is be able to, when my opponent moves, I need to kind of lock in with the distance, okay, and move back and forth with them. And this is something that we practice a lot, and it's very, very beneficial. And, you know, you can start to tailor with the distance of being an appetizing target versus being completely inaccessible. There, you have to have this kind of courage to stay within that space, but you don't want to be too close. You know, if you move too close without any action, then obviously you're open for attack. I find that maintaining that distance and staying roughly just outside of that target range helps to kind of minimize that mental noise. If they can't hit you, then you don't need to worry about anything. The only really time you need to be on alert is whenever they're moving in towards your space, and if you're not backing up at the same amount of intensity that they're coming into your space, then of course we go. And that, again, just like with the breathing and everything, takes, you know, diligent practice, and especially with like lunges and jump rope and things like that. You know, it's a very quadricep heavy movement. But again, overall with fencing, we really want to automate our movements. We want to train our body, train our breath in a way to where we can deliver high quality movements without thinking. The brain is what's always going to get us in trouble. And I know I'm already 7 minutes in, and I'm throwing the most important thing at the very end. But the brain is what gets people in trouble. The cycle of thinking to action, think, act, think, act, takes too long. It takes too long in fencing. The Japanese have a concept of, you know, working from the void, which means just act. Okay, and so their general perspective, or at least how I was taught doing Japanese martial arts, was to, you know, have this no mind, very calm state, and just open your vision and your periphery to where you're not looking at anything directly, but you're taking in the whole picture. And you basically just process all of this information in the spine. Most of our reflex actions occur within the spine, from the brainstem all the way down. And the spinal cognition is where your high reaction times are going to be. If you have to bring it into the cortex and evaluate it, and, you know, write a dissertation in between movements, which is it's a very common thing that I see with new people, and then that interrupts the entire process. And so, in some way, shape, or form, you have to turn your training, especially your solo work, into somewhat of a meditation. And we need to be able to chill the brain out and teach the body. You really have to teach the body how to do these movements. And so thank you. I hope you you know, sat through all 8 minutes and 45 seconds of this. You know, I know my attention span kind of falls off after this, especially on TikTok, but anyway, I just kept going. So have a good day.